Next we will have Dr. Laura Harrison from the University of South Florida, USA. Actually, I just got explained it's Middle Florida because it's in Tampa in the middle of Florida. It's complicated. She will talk about the virtualization technologies of vulnerable tourism destinations using a case study from coastal Florida. The aim is to address the impacts of rising sea levels on vulnerable heritage sites and promote sustainable tourism while protecting natural and cultural heritage.
Great. Thank you so much. And yeah, we're going to be talking about another island here today, so keeping them coming here. So I'm going to be focusing today on a research site called Egmont Key. This is a little island in central Florida. It's about 2 square kilometers, and it's an incredible place that has multitudes of natural resources as well as cultural heritage resources. And you can see from the drone video on the right, it's got a historic lighthouse there. Also, about 80% of this island is a national wildlife refuge. So most of it is closed off to visitors. It's also a Florida state park, and so there's also parts of the island that are properties operated by the Coast Guard, so it's really got multitudes of different layers of involvement from different government entities, but I myself am an academic, and so we have partnered with these local land managers to try to implement sustainable practices, and we'll see the island faces many challenges that require sustainable approaches to address. So first and foremost, we've got about 200,000 visitors per year who are coming to Egmont Key, which is only accessible by boat. And so the island, however, is very fragile. It's got these coastal shorelines, and as you can see in the image on the right here, many of the boats just pull right up to the island, they anchor on that fragile shoreline, and they can endanger the habitats. The island, additionally, is also faced by wildfires. We had a bad one just a couple weeks ago. And there's also millions of microplastics within Tampa Bay that also threaten the ecology surrounding this island. In addition, sea turtles nest on the island, but each year, our local nonprofits who count those sea turtle nests have been noticing that they're starting to decline. So altogether, really, this means that we need to adopt sustainable tourism solutions to try to address the problems of over-tourism and destination management. So some of the SDGs that we've looked at in terms of, trying to come up with solutions in partnership with the land managers are 11.4 to protect the world's natural and cultural heritage, as well as 8.9 to promote beneficial and sustainable tourism. So these are some guideposts that we've been working on over the last several years with our partners. So as I mentioned, Egmont Key contains multitudes of natural and cultural heritage. On the left here, you see some of the Atlantic bottlenose dolphins that make their home in the waters around Egmont Key, those waters being threatened by the microplastics. In addition, on the right, you see the Egmont Key Lighthouse, which is an amazing cultural heritage site built in 1858, one of the main lighthouses in all of Western Florida. This is a structure that is not open to the public. It's currently run by the Coast Guard, which is not really a visitor services organization, and so for that reason, they keep it locked and shut. Our team from the University of South Florida was able to use lidar scanning to go inside the lighthouse and create this virtualization that you see here, allowing that structure to become accessible to the public. This is also the basis for some work that we've done in digital storytelling. For example, bringing it into VR goggles and doing some historical storytelling about the island and its history. So Egmont Key has all these amazing resources, but also they're quite at risk. As you can see in the image on the right here, the island has lost about 50% of its landmass in the last 150 years. So it's really washing away at a very rapid rate. The image on the left here is a 360 video that we did of that western shoreline. You can see that steep shelf of sand. That's where the erosion is really felt most acutely. These big hurricanes and storms come through the island. It's not sitting on any bedrock. It's really just a sandbar, and so it washes the island away. Of course, when the island washes away, all of those natural habitats for sea turtles are endangered, as well as many cultural heritage sites as well. And these are problems that are well known by the land managers, so we can take a look at the 2010 conservation plan here, and you'll note that there have been clear admissions of the problems on Egmont Key from these managers. For example, they've said, we do not have a visitor services plan. We have not provided cultural resources, educational opportunities to the public. In terms of cultural heritage and resources, they note the erosion on the shoreline and mistreatment by the public are compromising the structures. In addition, interactive exhibits need to be developed. And finally, we need a more comprehensive approach to mitigate this loss of beach. And we're expecting to lose a lot of these coastal habitats. So these are problems that are really well acknowledged and well known by the land managers. But unfortunately, there are so few resources that we need to come up with innovative ways to address them. And so what my team has done at the University of South Florida is really utilize some of the advanced digital technologies to help come up with ways to better understand the projected impact of climate change and sea level rise on Egmont Key. And so what you're looking at here on the left is something called a lidar point cloud. It's a three-dimensional representation of cultural heritage site, and we've been able to take that and document multiple structures throughout the island over the last 4 years. And so we've got a USF research team that has helped us co-create this data set, this 3D documentation of the physical structures and built heritage on the island, also creating a community of practice around preserving the island. And so what you're looking at here on the left is a 3D point cloud of something called Battery McIntosh. This is a fort from the Spanish-American War. And this fort is right at the edge of the island. As you can see on the back side there is right where the beach is. So that beach is part of the sea turtle habitat. It's also where all those boats pull up, and it's an area of very active erosion. So we really want to document this site, on the one hand, to preserve it, to, again, aid in some of those goals set forth in the comprehensive conservation plan, but also to do some digital storytelling around the history of the island, and most importantly, to use it in some climate change modeling, better understand how sea level rise might impact it. So in the United States, we have the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, short for NOAA. And NOAA puts out these sea level rise scenarios that are based on lots of different factors. Mostly it's, the low factor would be, the low scenario would be if extreme interventions are taken on a global scale to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions. And the extreme scenario might happen if we do absolutely nothing and greenhouse gases continue to rise. And so we've got lots of different scientifically calculated scenarios. And you can go to this web viewer that's online, the Sea Level Rise Viewer, and you can go and take a look at, for instance, the intermediate scenario in the year 2100, which is what we're looking at here. And so you'll see pretty much all of Egmont Key turns blue. It's all underwater in that scenario. So you would think, okay, let's go ahead and communicate that to the land manager and try to come up with some sort of solution to protect the island. Maybe we need beach renourishment. Maybe we need more scanning of the sites that are still there. But there's a problem with the Sea Level Rise Viewer, and the problem is that it's only accurate to about 9-meter resolution. So if we want to talk about preserving a specific structure like Battery McIntosh, we might run into a problem when presenting a land manager with an image like this, saying the structure is going to be underwater. The land managers out at Egmont Key, they don't have a background in sustainability, they have a background in law enforcement. So it's not really a message that's getting across loud and clear with an image like this. We need to find ways to better communicate to audiences who don't come from the world of sustainability and heritage preservation. And so to address that problem, what my team did is we geo-referenced our terrestrial lidar point cloud. I know that sounds complicated. Really what it means is you just take a 3D model and you link it into a map. And once it's linked into the map, what you can do is then project those sea level rise scenarios right onto the 3D model very accurately down to about millimeter level resolution rather than 9-meter resolution. And so we can see here on the left in the high scenario in 2050, Battery McIntosh is quite visible. It's totally there, and it is pretty much safe and sound. But unfortunately, in a high 2080 scenario on the right, you can see that water has now fully submerged the interior of the island. Whole thing is underwater. And you can see specifically where it is impacting Battery McIntosh. We've taken this one step further by integrating it into the 3D model that you see here. So this is basically just a 3D virtualization of what we looked at with that map. And you can see this is the high 2080 scenario. The blue is the water. It's coming, completely submerging the bottom floors of Battery Macintosh. So in terms of communicating this type of data to the land managers, we're really able to be much more effective with this type of technological approach. So here, for example, you can see that same model in a screenshot. The water's coming up to the 4th step. And we know this in high 2080. Okay, we can say to our land manager, here's a concrete example of how we think sea level rise and climate change are going to affect the structure. Maybe we should do some beach renourishment in front of it or come up with other mitigation strategies. So again, this kind of all just builds into that SDG-informed approach to dealing with climate change and projecting the various impacts of climate change, again, utilizing those virtualization technologies, especially in the service of Target 8.9 and 11.4. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Laura. Yeah, we also discussed that shortly, like Florida is on the forefront of climate change. A lot of things happening there with hurricanes, so great work what you do there, and also very useful for other destinations.